Germany's armed forces are to receive a much-needed financial boost after the cabinet approved the country's annual budget for 2025. But the €1 billion increase is much less than the defence minister asked for and comes at a cost. Aid to Ukraine will be slashed, as well as funding for foreign service and humanitarian programmes.
With a war in Europe, Germany has pledged to boost spending on its armed forces. That means expensive things like these military exercises. Recruiting new personnel and modernising weapons won't come cheap. There's also the new 5,000-soldier brigade Germany has begun to deploy to Lithuania. Defence Minister Boris Pistorius has set course for a new level of military preparedness. Putin's war economy is working towards another conflict. We must be ready for war by 2029. But how does that sit with the tight fiscal rules championed above all by Finance Minister Christian Lindner? He's committed to the debt brake, not living beyond the country's means, and he has the backing of Chancellor Scholz. The result? The budget plan for 2025 and beyond, thrashed out between the three government parties earlier this year, will mean cuts in some areas and smaller increases than hoped in others. The German Foreign Ministry wants an increase of more than €1 billion in its funding. Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock points to increasing tensions around the globe. But the budget proposal would give it €1 billion less. Some warn that will hit humanitarian support for people in the Middle East and Ukraine. The International Development Ministry is also due to receive €1 billion less than before. A cut of about 9% in its budget could mean less German aid for the world's poorest. It's not only foreign policy under the knife. The government's plan would also cut money to support the unemployed and pensioners in Germany. As the German economy has been weakening, Berlin says tough choices have to be made. The hope of many is that when the final decisions are made, those choices do not weaken Germany's voice in world affairs.
Let's look at some of those hard choices with Benjamin Tallis, who's a politics and security analyst with the Democratic Strategy Initiative. Before that, he was a senior research fellow at the German Council on Foreign Relations. Welcome to DW. As we heard in the report, Germany boosting military spending by spending just over €1 billion, but halving financial aid to Ukraine. How worried should Kyiv be?
Kyiv should be very worried because this is not what Ukraine needs. It's frankly not what European security needs, and it's not what Germany needs. This budget reflects the lack of seriousness with which the current German government is taking the worsening geopolitical situation, and it also reflects their inability to actually make those hard choices that your report talked about.
A lack of seriousness, driven by what, do you think?
An unwillingness to face up to the challenges that are actually manifest now. That's in terms of the threat from Russia, the threat that we would be directly exposed to should we fail to defeat Russia in Ukraine, but also the vulnerability that might be created by a US withdrawal from its commitment to Europe, or even just a softening or weakening of that commitment, because we currently lack the means to adequately defend ourselves, to adequately deter Russia. And this level of spending, a €1 billion increase when a €6 billion increase was asked for, and when we've seen 20 years of neglect, creating something like a €600 billion hole in the defence budget overall, is frankly not up to the job.
Right. So you think that this €1 billion increase won't even touch the sides?
Exactly. Well put. That's right. Okay. And it's a lot less than Boris Pistorius was asking for.
So Christian Lindner, the German finance minister, explained today that Ukraine will get enough funding from the EU and G7. Clearly, you don't think it's as simple as that.
I don't, because it revolves around the question of what is enough. And enough to keep Ukraine in the fight, enough to keep Ukraine's budget ticking over, maybe. But we should be in it to win it. We should be aiming to win. And frankly, we haven't even tried yet. We are currently pursuing a policy that exposes us to all the costs of defeat while giving us none of the benefits of victory in Ukraine. This stands to create a geopolitical grey zone in the heart of Europe that will only breed chaos and instability going forward, which will raise the need to actually further raise defence spending in future. And thinking that Germany is having difficulty maintaining that level of 2% of GDP on defence now, wait until it tries to get to 3.5% or more.
Let's talk about so we've got the defence budget increase, but the budget for international aid has been halved. Does that matter?
It does matter, but I think this is actually one of the better signs in this budget. And that's a controversial thing to say, but why do I say it? Because it does show some semblance of strategic thinking, which the essence of strategic thinking is prioritization. And prioritization doesn't mean getting rid of unimportant things. It means getting rid of important things that are not the most important. And it has been recognized that international aid right now is less important than defense. The big problem is that Germany's self-imposed restriction, the debt brake, is limiting what the country can do on all fronts. When you say around Europe there's a lack of political will in Berlin, people sort of nod. But if you say there's a lack of money, they find it really hard to believe. And that's still true despite the worsening German economic situation. Germany could actually borrow its way out of this mess very easily and do the right thing for European security as well as for its own defense. But it's currently choosing not to on the altar of that debt brake.
How does spending on international aid, how does that actually benefit Germany?
Well, it buys good reputation. For a start, that's one of the key things it does. It shows Germany's concerned about the plight of other people around the world. It builds particular good relations with the countries where it goes to, or at least it's supposed to if it's used strategically. And fundamentally, it's the right thing to do because human security, people's life chances around the world matter. But again, do they matter as much as the defense of our own societies right now? And the answer is no, because if we don't defend our societies, we will have no possibility to give aid in the future. Let alone do all the other things that we actually need to do. So there is a clear hierarchy of state needs here, and the irreducible function of the state is to provide security for its citizens. That's why defense should come first. But it's not the only thing to spend on, of course. We need to generate prosperity and to be able to keep actually our societies going and have that money to spend on defense as well as the improvements that people rightly demand. So choices do have to be made. And I do think this is the right way to go at the moment in order to set the scene in future for having other forms of influence around the world. And actually having a strong defense, a strong society is one of the ways we can also exercise transformative power, soft power around the world because we become attractive to others.
Good talking to you. Thank you for explaining that so clearly. Security analyst at Benjamin Tallis.
Thank you.